Hello, it is Monday, February 13th, 2023. I'm Chris Remo, and welcome back to the New York Times Crossword Daily Solve. It's a Monday puzzle today, so it should be a nice, gentle puzzle, and that's good because, as is often the case on Monday, I don't have very much time, so hopefully this puzzle can proceed quickly, and it may well be able to because it is a Monday puzzle. Should be the easiest of the week, we'll see. And this, hopefully, easiest puzzle of the week has been brought to us by David Innes, Bradley Pirtle, Alex, and, as always, the invaluable Timothy Mark and the indomitable Showmaster. So thank you so much to the 5 of them, benefactors of the Daily Solve Patreon campaign, for bringing us this edition and sustaining this series and this channel. I do very much appreciate that. Thank you to all my benefactors and all of my Patreon supporters more generally. If you'd like to become a benefactor yourself and get the Daily Solve Let's Check the Crosses mug, you can find that at patreon.com/dailysolve or in a link in the description field underneath the video, where, of course, you can also become a patron at any level you choose and get access to all of the bonus videos that have gone up on the channel to date, as well as the new ones that go up each week. And thank you again to everybody who is a patron. It really does make a difference and help me sustain this whole enterprise. Do also subscribe to the YouTube channel if you've not done so yet, and consider joining the Daily Solve Discord chat server. There's a link in the description field to that as well. All right, let's get on to the puzzle. This is a debut construction by Eric Rolfing, so welcome to him. And interesting to see what he has in store for his first New York Times puzzle. It was edited, of course, as always, by Will Shortz. So let's start solving. Channel for Mad Money. This is some sort of financial commentary show. I think it's on, I don't know actually. Is it CNBC maybe? I'm actually, now that I thought I had a good guess as to what this is, but now I'm not sure. I think it probably starts with C. Whatever it is. Twice chewed food could be cud, as in what cows, the cows chewing their cud, their food. Lyft competitor Uber is another ride-sharing app. And sports organization for Bill Russell. Oh, wow. The NBA? I think he's a basketball player. So maybe this was CNBC after all. And then Backstabbers Forte. Betrayal. A backstabber, by definition, betrays. And former late-night host Craig Ferguson, who is of Scottish origin, but is a naturalized U.S. citizen and is a talk show host, or was, I suppose, in the U.S. So this is an extremely U.S.-oriented corner here because we have CNBC, the NBA, and Craig Ferguson. So we'll see if that carries through for the rest of the puzzle. Omani currency, well, that isn't one, so Rial, or isn't a U.S. clue, I mean. Sounds during a dental exam. You might say ah, so ahs or sounds during a dental exam. Uh-oh, blank, classic line in commercials. I don't know. No idea what that is. We'll see if I recognize it eventually. Shiny bicycle attachment. Some sort of light? Some kind of reflector maybe? Yeah, that seems right to me. Hoarse voice could be a rasp, what I sometimes have in these videos. And to broadcast a television program could be to air, which would be the way you probably have found out about the answers to most of these clues. Sold out theater initials could be SRO for standing room only. That used to come up in the crossword very frequently, slightly less so now. Ireland to the Irish, well, as we know, as I serially mispronounce. I'm very sorry about that. But definitely worth remembering this one for crossword purposes. Certainly. Illinois city that's a symbol of Middle America is Peoria. Often used in the sort of phrase, will it play in Peoria, to test the kind of viability of a given policy or idea. Or joke, I guess, is actually where it started. Okay, colorful cereal with the mascot Toucan Sam. Fruit Loops, spelled in this intentionally incorrect manner, Fruit Loops, to evoke the O's, the loops themselves. And that is thematic. That's interesting. So sorry, I'm just going to look at this because it's been tantalizingly highlighted all this time. Nutritionist's recommendation, or what the answers to the starred clues make up to an overly literal person? I don't know, but I'm curious to see what the answer is eventually. What about this? Excessively. If something is excessively hot, it's too hot. King in French is roi, R-O-I. And signed up could be enlisted, maybe, into a military, for instance. Bert and Ernie for one. A duo, a pair. There are two of them. I guess you could figure that out even without knowing who they are, because there are two of them in the clue. Eponymous prize awarded by the Mystery Writers of America. Edgar, named for Edgar Allan Poe, I believe. So this really is, there is quite a lot of, there's quite a lot of cultural knowledge going on in general in this particular crossword, and a high percentage of it is US-centric. Quit being so immature. Grow up, you might say. To shoot for the stars is to aspire, to hope for something better. Frontline healthcare professional is a nurse, of course. And a sticky secretion of a tree, for instance, could be resin. The successor of Nintendo's GameCube gaming console was the Wii, a Nintendo video game console Nintendo released after the GameCube. And a catering container is an urn. You could serve food in an urn. To capture something on cassette is to tape it. And blank will always love you, and I will always love you, Whitney Houston lyric. I don't know, it's a Dolly Parton lyric. Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting question. How do you characterize that? Because obviously Whitney Houston famously performed this lyric. But if you were saying, well, whose lyric was that? Well, it was Dolly Parton's in the sense that she wrote it. It is her lyric in the sense that she authored it. Yeah. Is a lyric associated with the performer or the writer? Obviously in Dolly Parton's case, both. But I suppose this makes sense because you could refer to a Frank Sinatra lyric, I guess. And he, I don't think, wrote any of those actual lyrics. Yeah, that's an interesting question. But then there's a further question because some of those songs were written for him. So they're sort of, you kind of consider them his songs, whereas in this case, Whitney Houston's version was a cover. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's a perfectly valid clue. I bring it up mainly because I think, obviously, Whitney Houston's performance of this is amazing, but Dolly Parton's performance is, I think, truly extraordinary and has been sort of overshadowed by Whitney Houston's version. But the Dolly Parton original is just an incredible, incredible performance. Anyway, coop residence could be a hen, as in a hen coop. And goodness me, absolutely not. Goodness me, absolutely not. I don't know what that is offhand. Sound represented by an upside down E. I think that's a schwa. The sort of very weak vowel that is actually, I think, the most common vowel sound in English. So, for instance, when you say the car, that sort of ugh in the car, that happens when it gets when it sort of bleeds into the next word, as opposed to if you're just saying the on its own. All right, drive-through window and alternative to a ho-ho. A Twinkie, I think? Yes. Are those the same manufacturer? Are they both Hostess? I think so. I'm not sure off the top of my head. This looks like something spaghetti. SpaghettiOs. I see. That's a canned pasta brand, I think. SpaghettiOs. So we have O-related foods. Is that the connection here? I'm not sure. To exhibit something is to show it. Drained of color could be pale. And contents of a farmyard stack, you could have a stack of hay on the farmyard. Star of the Disney animated short Once Upon a Snowman. It must be Olaf, who is the snowman character from Frozen. Target of a medicated dog collar. A flea, I think this is referring to a flea collar for dogs to help rid the dog of fleas, or I guess discourage the fleas from coming. Nutritionist recommendation, or what the answers to the starred clues make up to an overly literal person. So what is going on here? A well-rounded diet, I see. So it was around sort of O-shaped foods, Fruit Loops and SpaghettiOs. comprising a well-rounded diet. I have to say, unlikely a nutritionist would consider Fruit Loops and SpaghettiOs a well-rounded diet, but in the world of pun, certainly. Major Texas industry, refining maybe, oil refining, I would think. Radio button that's handy on a road trip. Oh, is it not refining? What is this? Radio button that's handy on a road trip. I'm not sure. Scan? I'm not sure if it means, because there's obviously a radio button could be a button on a radio in a car, but it also means a particular type of button that doesn't need to be on a radio. The term derives from those buttons being common on radios, but it could also be referring to a radio button type of button that is on a different device. But that's probably not what it is. It's probably referring to the radio itself. Anyway, let's look around. Korean automaker Kia is a Korean car manufacturer, and memo starter could be in re to introduce the subject of the memo. Refusing to accept reality. If you're in denial, C67 across, which is with 41 down, Buffalo's body of water. Oh, this was referenced in a sort of punny way, in a thematically punny way in a recent crossword, but Lake Erie. Another U.S. Clue. Color akin to turquoise is teal, and 24 horas is dias, so 24 hours in a day in Spanish. And bulk purchase of Gouda, e.g. Oh, a wheel of cheese. A big wheel, or just a cheese wheel, maybe. Simple as that. Yes, there it is. A cheese wheel. All right, wolf sounds, wolves howl, so there we go. Slender could be slim, and a folded edge could be the hem of a dress, for instance. Bit of Winter Olympics equipment would be a ski, and something to make when tossing a coin into a fountain would be a wish. Something wildly bright as a color could be neon, and subject of many bad puns would be a U. So we're referencing the sound that sheep make, of course, ba, and also the fact that the U is often used in a pun as a substitute for the second person singular and plural pronoun you, Y-O-U. Okay, a food strainer is a sieve, and goodness me, absolutely not. Heavens no, you might say emphatically. If something goes poofed, it dies, as a machine, for instance. And like some watermelons or brackets, they could be seeded. So you could have seeds in a sports tournament bracket, or also, of course, seeds in a watermelon. Babe could be hun, maybe, a term of endearment, of intimacy. Weeding tool could be a hoe, and major Texas industry. So it's not refining. I'm sure this will be very obvious when I see it, but I'm not off the top of my head. What about these acrosses? Genesis backdrop, Eden, the Garden of Eden in the book of Genesis in the Bible. And a sales pitch display informally could be a demonstration of goods. A praiseful poem could be an ode, of course, the official poetic form of the New York Times crossword, except no substitutes. And President Pro Tem is a title. So Ice Cream of the Future since 1988. Oh, Dippin' Dots. I've never actually had Dippin' Dots. I guess they must be circular as well. Whatever they are exactly. I guess ice cream is scooped into circles. I don't know if that's what that's referring to. Major Texas industry. So what is this? It looks like the word reaching. I just can't think of anything other than that, which is obviously a distraction and not helpful. Unless reaching is a major Texas industry, I somehow doubt it. Blank favor, Spanish please. Oh, another Spanish clue, so por favor, of course. And singer and AIDS charity founder Elton John, the great singer. Corporate shakeup for, he would be another where you'd ask, so are they Elton John lyrics? Because they're all written by Bernie Taupin. But again, this is a case where I think, well, they were written specifically for Elton John exclusively, and someone else might sing them, but they're Elton John songs because they really were written for him. Corporate shakeup for short. A reorganization. Orchard beverage could be cider, apple cider, for instance. Climbing vine could be ivy. And Blank Row, London street known for its tailors. So Savile Row is a street in London with high-end, bespoke tailoring shops. New car smell is a thing people talk about. And modern leading to currency would be, of course, cryptocurrency. We all hear a lot about these days. So the radio... So wait, sorry, what is this? Wrenching? Do I have something wrong here? Road button that's handy on a road trip was scan, as I thought it maybe would be. All right, this is wrong, which is not a surprise. Oh, what's this? Oh, I missed this entirely. It's because I had refinery in there, and then I deleted the other letters, but didn't delete this because I erroneously assumed it had been solved. But in fact, I had not even looked at it. So a big part of a basset hound is its ear, famously. And there we go. The major Texas industry is ranching, of course. And if not for that E, I might have had a better chance of spotting that before the very end, but I sabotaged myself, hoisted by my own petard. So there we go. We had our well-rounded diet of a dubious claim that Fruit Loops, SpaghettiOs, a cheese wheel, and Dippin' Dots make up a well-rounded diet. It might be an enjoyable diet, but of course it is well-rounded in the punny sense that these are all circular or spherical, or I guess in the case of a cheese wheel, cylindrical, essentially, foods. I'm not sure about the Dippin' Dots, but maybe they're little spheres or something. So there we have it. That was the crossword for Monday, February 13th. I am going to move on and try and get back in the habit of doing the clues from yesterday's puzzle. So I'm going to take the opportunity to just do a couple of those very quickly because I'm going to squeeze that time out of my morning. So Nix Hicks explains the Little Red Hen, the story that I couldn't quite remember. And it's the story of one person in a group doing all the work. Who will help me sow the wheat? Not I. Who will help me harvest it? Millet? Not I. Who will help me bake the bread? Not I. But who will help me eat the bread? The dog and the pig and the others all enthusiastically volunteer for that task, and the Little Red Hen tells them in no uncertain terms, oh no, they would not help her eat it, and she keeps it all for herself. So there we go. We learn a lesson via the Little Red Hen about teamwork and selfishness. And Brian explains TCBY's name confusion possibly explained by Wikipedia. Prior to 1984, the company's name was This Can't Be Yogurt, but a lawsuit from a competitor, I Can't Believe It's Yogurt, forced TCBY to create a new name from its initials, eventually using the country's best yogurt. And that was the one that I had remembered. So I suppose I don't think I was familiar with that, the story about the change. And finally, there were a couple of comments about Manhattan being an island, and now I forget where they were. Here we go. Brian says, I thought this was funny. I argued with ChatGPT about whether or not Manhattan is an island or a peninsula, and it says it's an island because it's surrounded on all sides by rivers. It needs to have a land bridge for something to be a peninsula, and if that were true, then it wouldn't be surrounded by rivers. So, right, indeed. And I wasn't really taking into account the Harlem River completely separating the island of Manhattan from the mainland. Although Noah Noble has a point, which is sort of the one that I was arguing against in my head, which is, surely if this were true, then any instance of a fork in a river would create an island, cutting off the land between the two forks and forming a sort of triangle with the other edge being a sea. But I guess it's a somewhat arbitrary distinction. It probably depends on how wide, deep, or traversable the water is. And I think that's probably true. It probably does. If you had a little stream, it probably wouldn't count as dividing a landmass into an island. But an untraversable major river would. So there, I think that explains it. And that's that for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow for the Tuesday crossword. Of course, should be another relatively gentle themed puzzle. Do join me for that. But until then, please do have an excellent remainder of your Monday. Take care.